at the present moment, and Damon Hill with 5 wins under his belt already, and those 5 pole positions this year already, and that 21 points World Championship lead over his teammate Jacques Villeneuve is starting to look good for another Grand Prix victory. But don't think if Damon Hill wins this race and thereby increases his World Championship lead that he is going to be invulnerable in the World Championship. At the end of this race, after the French Grand Prix, there are still going to be 7 races left. That's Luca Badoer joining the retirements and his teammate Andrea Montermini. As I was saying, there are still going to be 7 races left. That means there are still 70 points to be won, 10 points for first place, 6 points for second, and so on, down to 1 point for 6th position. So Damon Hill would not be safe in the World Championship until a lot later, because it's always theoretically possible anyway that the championship leader can retire from every race and leave the chap behind him to gain enough points to catch him and pass him. Now, lap 33, Damon Hill leads Jean Alesi's Benetton Renault by just over 11 seconds, and Alesi is 3 seconds ahead of Jacques Villeneuve, who is 3rd. Mika Hakkinen is in 4th position, 3.5 seconds behind Villeneuve. 5th is Gerhard Berger, so both the Benetton Renaults are in the top 5. Coulthard is 6th, but 23 seconds behind Berger. 7th is Brundle, 8th is Parnis, 9th is Barrichello. There is Brundle, and he has got behind him Olivier Parnis. This is the battle for 7th position that you're looking at, and both these drivers know Magny-Cours like the back of their hand. Martin Brundle drove for Ligier last year and previously, and Parnis is in his 3rd year with the team, and Magny-Cours is the headquarters and the nominated testing circuit for the Ligier team.
Yes, a lot of rivalry here in that Brundle came in occasionally, or for half the season last year, when Parnis was the regular driver at Ligier, and virtually every time that Brundle did come into the team, he out-qualified and often, or usually, out-raced Olivier Parnis. Now, Parnis is a driver who is undoubtedly quick, he's talented, we saw that at Monaco when he won, but he's also a little bit emotionally delicate in that his confidence can be sapped very easily, and that's what happened when Brundle came to join him. This year, with a teammate like Deniz, who, it has to be said, despite the performance he's put on so far, has not been a threat to him, Parnis' confidence is buoyed. He's the number 1 in the team. He feels like he controls it, he feels confident, and therefore he'll be determined here to be assertive with Brundle, to show that he is more than a match for the Englishman. It's going to be a good battle all the way throughout. But let's just reflect back. Before that first round of pit stops, we had a situation in which Coulthard was behind Brundle and was stuck behind him. Villeneuve was behind Hakkinen. Now, good, clever pit work from both those operations, and Parnis has a little bit of a look there. That's the Adelaide hairpin. Now, what's happened there is that by going wide onto the entrance, you saw Parnis try and go wide. There was no way he's going to go around the outside of him, but what he did do was able to come out on a faster line, albeit inside. Clearly, it hasn't really helped him at this stage, but he's certainly been able to harry Brundle very well. So, back to those stops. We've seen slick pit work from the McLaren team, kept Coulthard ahead of Brundle. Ukio Katayama coming into retirement by the look of it. That's the end of his race. And also good work from Villeneuve out on the track, getting him ahead of Hakkinen. So Villeneuve has now closed up from being 2.9 seconds behind Jean Alesi to being 1.7 seconds behind Alesi. So Villeneuve and Alesi about to look on the action, but also this is Gerhard Berger. He's just half a second behind Mika Hakkinen in front too. So we've got more battles to look forward to as this race goes on.
I wonder if we're going to see the 4th Williams 1st and 2nd of the season, because they were 1st and 2nd in Australia, they were 1st and 2nd in Argentina. Hill Villeneuve was the order, and then they were 1st and 2nd in Canada. But it's a long way ahead. We've still got half the race to go. There is the McLaren of Mika Hakkinen. Behind him is the Benetton, and Hakkinen dives into the Imola dip, and in the yellow-nosed Sauber, that is Heinz Harald Frentzen, who is in 10th position. Everybody up to 10th place has been lapped. Mika Salo is 11th. Katayama has joined the retirements. There are 8 people out of the race now in the order that they retired. Schumacher, before the race had even started, when his engine blew up on the formation lap. to Ferrari's dismay and discredit. Montermini out, Fisichella out, Eddie Irvine, the second Ferrari, out on the 5th lap. Jos Verstappen out, Pedro Diniz sadly out from an excellent 6th position. Luca Badoer out, now Ukyo Katayama out. We ride with Jacques Villeneuve, and you can see how close he is to Alessis Benetton. Second place, that is.
But as ever, can he get by? That's the question. Now, the Williams has got about a 3 or 4 miles an hour straight line speed advantage over the Benetton. The Williams is a little bit more aerodynamically efficient, I think. I think it's probably the Benetton team realised that too. Benetton have clearly made real progress over the last couple of races. They had a new nose and a new underbody that they had at Montreal. It's taken them a while to realise the benefit of that, but I think now they are. We're seeing strong performances here from Alesi and Berger. But can Villeneuve find a way by Alesi? As we go around the lap, we can see where Villeneuve is stronger than Alesi, and that probably is most of the places. We're looking now from Olivier Panis at the back of Martin Brundle's car. There's only half a second separating them. It really is very, very close indeed. Now let's go round Villeneuve through the flat left-hander. Nothing they can do there. They're both flat on the throttle. Now, the problem for Villeneuve through this right-hander is that he will be getting understeer as if he gets any closer to Alesi than that, he'll be losing the effectiveness of the front end of the front wings, and that will make him wash wide. So he has to lift up the throttle, but look at the way that he's accelerating up now. This is where it could happen. There is the result, and Villeneuve goes by. We can hear the brakes going. Villeneuve goes by using that straight line speed advantage. That's what happens when you get a 3 miles an hour straight line speed advantage, coupled with the slipstream effects. Being in the tow, he had about 5 miles, 7 miles an hour advantage. Alesi being remarkably polite, it has to be said. Now that looks like Olivier Panis coming back up into the pits for his second stop, and we know he's on a 3-stop routine, so this is his mid-distance stop. It should be about 6.5, 7 seconds. Let's watch.
From 8th position, Panis in the Ligier Mugen, and the race that he's been having was not only a race of cars and drivers against Martin Brundle, Panis in the Ligier and Brundle in the Jordan, but a race of engines, because the Ligier has got the Japanese Honda Associated V10 Mugen engine in it, and of course Martin Brundle's Jordan has got the French Peugeot V10.
At last, somebody who really does know about engine protection has introduced a total range of car care products. Pyro, performance products. Not only will Pyro protect and enhance the vital running systems of your car, but if you buy any Pyro product, you could win a sparkling new Toyota Celica exactly like this one. People who know use Pyro from Valvoline.
No one has ever come from 2 laps down to win the Indy 500. Now Jacques Villeneuve will enter that straight and see the last lap board, telling him he has just 1 lap to go till he is the Indy 500 champion.
Is it true you can keep going all night on 1 glass of milk?
Oh, too right. But 2 glasses are even better.
Milk. Are you getting enough?
Sony Music Legends classic double albums, only $29.95 with Pink Floyd.
All in all, you're just another brick in the wall.
Billy Joel.
Baby, right.
Bob Dylan.
Here comes the story of the
And War of the Worlds. Not $50, not $40. Double CDs, only $29.95. There's Neil Diamond, Bruce Springsteen, Forrest Gump and more. Classic doubles, $29.95. Legends only from Sony.
The magic of Europe. For a lot of Australians, it's always been out of reach. But now, you can buy the car that well over 1 million Europeans are driving. The car the RACV voted Best Buy in the medium car class last year. The 2-litre Mondeo from Ford. And from around $27,000, it's a piece of Europe that's well within reach.
Puff of smoke, wheels locked, and Villeneuve would have run wide of the apex, allowing Alesi to tuck back up and in on the inside. That didn't happen. Villeneuve is too good for that, and the Williams is very, very stable. I have to say, But the Williams car does not just have a lot of downforce, it also has a great deal of stability. Its downforce is very evenly and consistently distributed, and the car is impressive in so many areas, but braking is one of them, and we saw a very good example of that. So, Villeneuve is now 12 seconds behind Damon Hill. He's now set the fastest lap of the race at 1 minute 18.9. Could we yet have a race on our hands? Can Villeneuve close that gap? He's got plenty of laps to do so, and 11.2 seconds he can certainly cope with. There's the evidence of it. Whilst further back, we've still got Gerhard Berger behind Häkkinen. He's slipped back to 1.4 seconds, and it may well be that he has to keep that until the next round of pit stops. That's going to be round about lap 45, lap 48, somewhere around there.
Now, you see a car in front of Jacques Villeneuve. It is that of Mika Salo, who is in 11th place, the Tyrrell Yamaha. There is Salo, and Villeneuve will be lapping him in the next lap or two. Now, Jean Alesi, I was going to say, would be doing his best to keep up with Villeneuve in the hope that Salo might inadvertently block the Williams-Renault and give Alesi the opportunity to nip past again and retake that second place. But now Villeneuve is enough of a gap, has created enough of a gap. In fact, it is some 2.5 seconds. So that is how much quicker on one lap the Williams-Renault is than the Benetton Renault of Jean Alesi, as Villeneuve comes through the lycée on his 40th lap into lap 41. So there's another 32 laps for the top three and the rest of them that follow. And Olivier Panis has now really got moving. He's in 9th position. He is 10.5 seconds behind Barrichello, but he's just gone 2.2 seconds quicker with the first lap we've had in the race in under 1 minute 19 seconds. There it is, 1 minute 18.712. Panis, the Frenchman, who knows the Magny-Cours circuit so very well, and we're with him now. That's the nose of the Ligier-Mugen that you can just see in the right-hand side of your picture. There is the Frenchman, Olivier Panis, the ex-Formula 3000 champion of Europe, the ex-Formula 3 champion of France. It's his third year with the Ligier team, and he's a much, much undervalued driver. Very good indeed. He richly deserved his first place in Monaco.
Now, great that performance from Panis is, and we can just see how hard he's trying. Panis will be really inspired here. He will have been looking forward to this race. He knows the team know the circuit. He knows the circuit so well. But let's also make it quite clear that Panis does have his car in the best possible trim, and he should be going the fastest in a way, to the extent that he's got his new tyres on after that last fuel stop, as Martin Brundle goes up the inside of Rosset there. But Panis has got new tyres on, but also being on this three-stop routine, he's got less fuel in his car with new tyres. Less fuel means less weight, means faster lap times than either Jacques Villeneuve or Damon Hill. Johnny Herbert locks his left front wheel here, and that looks like it's coming down into the Adelaide hairpin, and looks like he's going to lose control of it. Well, it's certainly getting out of shape. This is a slow-motion picture, of course, that we're seeing. One wonders, is there anything wrong with his car? It looks as though it probably is simply him braking too late. And he has found that, now here we are with Jacques Villeneuve again, coming up the inside of Pedro Lamy in the Minardi, he says, waves his fingers at Lamy, and that will have undoubtedly meant that he's lost time following him. And of course he is right on the chase now of Damon Hill, 11.6 seconds. He hasn't lost too much, but on that last lap he did lap 0.8 of a second slower than Hill. Hill has set his personal fastest lap on lap 40. That's a 1 minute 18.9. It was a 1 minute 18.8 from Jacques Villeneuve and 18.7 from Olivier Panis. And that's the Sauber team getting ready for another set of tyres for Johnny Herbert as we ride once again with Gerhard Berger, and we can see that he's actually dropped back a little further back, 1.6 seconds from Mika Häkkinen. I think resigned to following the McLaren until a possible chance to get by at the second and the last of the pit stops that both Häkkinen and Berger will be doing in about 7 laps time.
Lap 42 out of 72. 14 of the 21 starters are left in the race at about 2/3 distance. Damon Hill is now 12.6 seconds ahead of Villeneuve, who therefore did lose a bit of time in passing Lamy. Williams Renaults are first and second again, and Jean Alesi is 4.5 seconds behind Villeneuve. Häkkinen is 4th, Berger is 5th, and David Coulthard is in 6th position. There is the proof, and here coming towards us is Gerhard Berger, 5th position, and in front of him is Häkkinen's McLaren. and the gap is what you can see.
Now, Benetton team are getting ready. They've got tyres coming out of the wrappers. I think this must be for Jean Alesi. Let's not forget that he had less fuel went into that car at that stop. His stop was shorter. And the question at this point is, are the Benetton... Let's assume, number one, that this is for Alesi. The second question is he going to go for... Is this the second of 2 stops, or is it the last of 2? Now, if it's the second of 2, it'll be another short stop. 6 seconds, second of 3 rather, it'll be another short stop. 6, 7 seconds. If he's got to get to the end of the race on this amount of fuel, it's going to be longer, more like 8 or 9, possibly even getting close to 10. He's coming down. This is Berger, and that's Alesi coming in. So, let's remember the numbers.
Right underneath me, Alesi, on goes the light on the fuel nozzle. When that light goes out, and I'll tell you, the mechanic will know that the fuel has stopped flowing. It's gone out. Off comes the nozzle. Out goes Jean Alesi. 10-second stop. He was in 3rd position. Mika Häkkinen was only 2.8 seconds behind him at the previous lap, and he exits in front of Johnny Herbert in the Sauber Ford in 12th position. He has already been lapped, but it is now lap 43. So there are 19 laps left, and Villeneuve is in 2nd position. The gap has come down by 0.2 of a second to 12.3 seconds as Gerhard Berger goes past Mika Häkkinen at the Adelaide hairpin. He has done to Häkkinen what Villeneuve did to Alesi. Sailed through on the inside of the corner, and you're looking now at Villeneuve trying to close that gap. Well, he has brought it down by another 0.2 of a second. Damon Hill's previous lap was 1:19.3. Villeneuve that you're looking at has just gone round in 1:19.1.
$35 dealers and 2,000 new and used vehicles on over 10 acres. At Car City, we have the right vehicle to suit every member of the family.
Keep your eyes open for a bargain. Car City.
I've eaten cars, bicycles, even a steam train. But a simple ice cream, oh, the pain. So I use Sensodyne every time I brush.
Sensodyne, use it daily, and you can eat anything.
If I'm not in colour, I'm not in business.
Xerox digital colour makes every print an original.
In fact, it's so good, even I find it hard to tell the difference. If you're not in Xerox colour, you're just not in business.
With the bond market and the share market, people can invest both here in Australia as well as in overseas markets. And particularly in overseas shares, there are immense opportunities. The Australian share market represents less than 2% of the world's markets. And therefore, 98% of opportunities, whether we like it or not, exist beyond our shores.
See your financial advisor or call BT.
Tomorrow at Kmart, all men's, ladies and children's clothing, sleepwear and footwear will fall by a massive 25%. So don't hang around. Get 25% off all clothing, sleepwear and footwear. Tomorrow only at Kmart.
Mathematical division of the race into 3, and I think the answer was that what they did is they set themselves up with a mechanism to overtake a slower car that might have been ahead of Alesi in the first third of the race. Now that could have been Michael Schumacher, and by doing that short stop, that would have got hypothetically Alesi out ahead of Schumacher, and then hopefully he would have used the better performance of his car to pull away during his middle stint, so that when he needed that longer stop that he's just had, he would have had enough track advantage to come out still ahead. There's the theory.
And there's the leader, Damon Hill, at 45. 10 seconds now ahead of Jacques Villeneuve, because Villeneuve took 1.9 seconds out of Damon Hill's lead on the previous lap. I assume because Damon was in amongst traffic, and that is the Jordan. And behind is Olivier Parnis. That's Rubens Barrichello ahead of us in 8th position. Parnis is closing up. The gap between him and Barrichello 8th, Parnis 9th, was 1.2 seconds. It's it's virtually nothing now because the nose of Parnis's Ligier was almost touching the wing of Barrichello's Jordan. Now, Damon Hill is threading his way through traffic. He's lapped Lamy twice, he's lapped Rossett twice. He's up now with that battle between Barrichello and Parnis. Now, they are both very quick, and each will be concentrating on the other. Barrichello will be trying to keep Parnis behind him. Parnis will be trying to get past Barrichello. There's Barrichello on the right, the nose of Parnis's Ligier, and Damon Hill is coming up behind them, and he wants to lap them, and this will give Jacques Villeneuve the opportunity to close the gap. In fact, it's down to under 10 seconds. Damon Hill, it's critical for him, the race leader, that he gets past these two as quickly as he possibly can, and wham! That's Parnis going past Barrichello at Adelaide. This is the favourite place for passing. I said before, and I say again, that is a slow corner, 40 miles an hour, after, here's a replay, after a 180 or 90 mile an hour approach. So, Parnis has been planning, as Villeneuve did, his tactics, and he builds up the momentum, the last of the late breakers. Here is another replay. At the top of the picture, the Jordan. The bottom car is the blue Ligier of Olivier Parnis, who moves up now to 8th position. So, lap 46 with Damon Hill right behind them. There he is, that is Hill. And you can see that Hill has got a grandstand view of what's happening in front of him, but that's the last thing he wants, because now what is the gap going to be at the end of lap 46? It was 9.9 seconds between Hill, the race leader, and Villeneuve in second place. But, of course, we're back again with Parnis. Just as Hill has got to get past Parnis and Barrichello in the reverse order, Barrichello first, then Parnis, so Villeneuve will have to do the same thing. And unless the two men who are being lapped deliberately make it easier for Villeneuve, having seen Damon Hill go past them, it means that the gap should be returned. And Gerhard Berger, I think, is coming into the pits from 3rd position. This is his second stop. On goes the fuel light. It's on the right-hand side of the fuel nozzle that you're looking at in the top right corner of your picture. And Gerhard Berger leaves the pit lane, and he should be ahead of his teammate Jean Alesi in 5th position. Lap 47 then. Damon Hill leads. Villeneuve now is 9.4 seconds behind him. Hakkinen is 21 seconds in 3rd place behind Villeneuve. Alesi has gone up into 4th position ahead of his teammate Gerhard Berger. We're with the Austrian in the Benetton Renault now. 6th is David Coulthard. 7th is Martin Brundle. 8th is Parnis, who has got ahead of Barrichello. 9th, Frentzen is in 10th place. Salo is 11th. Johnny Herbert is 12th. Ricardo Rossett in the Arrows is 13th. Pedro Lamy is 14th, and the last of the 21 starters. And everybody up to 8th position now. Olivier Parnis has been lapped, and Barrichello, this is 9th position, having been lapped, he's been passed, you see, by Damon Hill, and Villeneuve now has got the gap down to 8.3 seconds with the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 18.63 seconds, as Rubens Barrichello rejoins. Again, order. Here is Damon Hill. This is a replay of Hill passing Parnis and moving ahead of the man who is in 8th position, a lap ahead. So now Damon has lapped everybody up to Martin Brundle, and he really needs to keep his skates on. He's got them on, he needs to keep them on to prevent that gap, 8.3 seconds between himself and Villeneuve, coming down even further.
Well, this really is impressive stuff from Jacques Villeneuve. He's piling on the pressure there. This 8.3 second gap he could certainly make up, but he's going to need a little bit of help. There's Damon Hill coming up the inside. Look at all the debris all around the place there. Olivier Parnis, he's the one on the 3-stop routine. Hill is yet to come in for his second stop. Villeneuve and Hakkinen, those three have all yet to come in. But whilst we saw a good stop from the Benetton team, another view of that, whilst we see a good stop from the Benetton team, it's worthy of mention too that we had an excellent stop from the Tyrrell team, because Mika Salo, with that stop of his, was 24.7 seconds in the pit lane, and that equaled the best ever that we've seen, and that was from David Coulthard on his. So I think a bit of a back slap there to the Tyrrell team for doing that. It's so easy to miss the performances when they're back there in 11th place, but it was a good effort.
And meantime, Villeneuve goes quicker again. 1 minute 18.6. Down comes the gap again. it was some 10 seconds, then it was 9, then it was 8, now it's just over 7. 7.3 seconds between Damon Hill leading on lap 49 and Jacques Villeneuve, his teammate, second. And so Villeneuve took a full second out of Damon Hill's lead. They both stopped once. Häkkinen has stopped once. Alesi, who is fourth, has stopped twice. Gerhard Berger has stopped twice. There's Damon Hill through the Imola turns into the Chateau d'Eau. Now he's dropping down to the chicane to go through it at 70 miles an hour, ahead of the lapped Olivier Panis, and look back for Jacques Villeneuve. The gap was 7.3 seconds. What is it now?
And look out for pit stops too. Tyre warmers off at the Williams pit. Villeneuve, we believe, coming into the pit. And every second's going to matter here now. Villeneuve, 7.3 seconds behind Hill. Let's watch the stop. Good stop there from Jacques Villeneuve. We didn't see the end of it, but we saw the number, and that's what matters, providing nothing went wrong. 8.4 seconds. So when Damon Hill comes in for his stop in a lap or two's time, I would think it can't be more than that, then it's going to be imperative for Hill's chances that he doesn't lose too much time in the pits for Villeneuve. Villeneuve's pit lane time was 26.58, and this is important too. This, just to remind you, is the time from when they come into the pit lane at the end of the lap to when they rejoin the track at the end of the pit lane, and therefore it takes into account, to an extent, how fast they literally come into the pits and how quickly they get going again when they come out.
Lap 50, I'm sorry, 22 laps to go. And David Coulthard comes into the pits from 6th position in the McLaren Mercedes. He's some 11 seconds behind Gerhard Berger, who's now pulled away, of course, in 5th place. Out goes Coulthard. Good stop, 7.7 seconds. So that means about 85 litres of fuel will have gone into the McLaren. And on lap 51, I do apologise, Damon Hill, we join him on the Williams Renault as he comes down to the Adelaide hairpin. He's doing about 180 miles an hour here before he backs off, round Golf, the right-hander, under the bridge, brakes hard on, down into second gear, down to 40 miles an hour. And Hill has now lapped everyone up to Gerhard Berger. He's lapped David Coulthard, who's been into the pits, of course, and he is now 30.8 seconds ahead of Jacques Villeneuve on account of the fact that the Canadian in second place has had his second stop. So once more, it's all going to be down to the pit stops here in Magny-Cours in France. Hill, Villeneuve, Häkkinen, Alesi, Berger, Coulthard are the only 6 on the same lap as race leader Hill, coming down now to complete his 51st lap.
Now, this is where he'll come into the pits if he's going to, through the right, left, and he's not. He's staying out. Tyres are indeed not ready yet. But that really was exceptional pit work from the McLaren team. Once again, one of the fastest stops, bearing in mind the amount of fuel that's going in. 7.6 seconds from Coulthard on his second one.
Al, my windscreen wipers don't work properly.
What you need is a new set of wiper blades. Trico wiper blades come as original equipment on 8 out of 10 cars. Did you know a wiper blade...
Want to know more? Ask a professional. Auto Pro. Call 132776.
Least expensive piece of safety equipment you can buy for your...
Gainesville, bringing value into designer furniture. Functional art for your living areas. Creative Portfolio by Gainesville.
Right now, hundreds of people at Mercantile Mutual are thinking about your future.
What are you going to do when you grow up?
The sort of insurance and finance you might need.
What kind of car will you have?
And how changing economic conditions might affect your investments and superannuation.
What kind of job do you want? Job?
So, if you're with Mercantile Mutual, your future is in good hands.
Facing
the impossible. It's what has inspired this man to achieve what others never have before. And it's what inspires Motorola to create new and improved cellular technology, which in turn can help you achieve more. Maybe even the impossible. Motorola, what you never thought possible.
Adventurous, romantic, creative, inspiring, and very affordable this week at Gainesville.
Welcome back. Well, things getting very interesting now. AJ, Villeneuve stayed out longer than Hill when they first came for their first stop. Now he's narrowed the gap down to that just over 7 seconds, but elected to go on early. Who calls that in?
Well, I would say that'd be pit strategy, because with the ECUs and what have you that they've got now, the telemetry that they have, Villeneuve may have been using slightly more fuel because he was working the car that much harder, and therefore they've decided, or they've elected to bring him in a little bit earlier. Now, no, he's not going in. That's Hill on one more lap. So they may have elected to bring Villeneuve in that much earlier because he may have been using more fuel, he might have been using up his tyres a bit more than Hill. But certainly they like to get them in and have about 1 or 2 laps between them so they can get themselves organised with all the new tyres and everything.
Makes it interesting now. Villeneuve, when you think started back in 6th spot, really has driven a terrific race. So is this man, of course. He's leading, has done nothing wrong.
Yeah, well, of course, he's got one more stop to go, so that's when the action will really happen.
OK, let's go back to Murray Walker and Jonathan Palmer.
He should have enough time to get back in the lead, about 5 or 6 seconds ahead of Jacques Villeneuve on what will be his 54th lap. But a lot of things can go wrong at a pit stop. Let's hope they don't go wrong for Damon Hill. Hill leads, Villeneuve second, Hakkinen third, Lacey fourth, Berger fifth, and Parnis and Coulthard are down there in 6th and 7th places.
And there's a replay there of Olivier Parnis coming up the inside of David Coulthard, it is, and touch they go. Parnis comes through, but that is where the Adelaide hairpin, that's where, let's have another look. There is Parnis up the inside. Coulthard chops across to the inside. Parnis takes to the curb on the inside, but no damage is done, and away they go. But in comes Damon Hill now. In comes Damon Hill. He's 30 seconds ahead of Villeneuve. He will lose 25 seconds or so on this. That'll put him, if it goes well, just 5 seconds ahead of Villeneuve. And let's not forget, after the last round of stops, Villeneuve was 11 seconds behind Hill. So Villeneuve is closing.
I'm watching 2 places at the same time, believe it or not. Hill is leaving the pit lane. I'm watching the approach to the pit lane, and Villeneuve has not even yet appeared for the Lycée corner. Now he has. Villeneuve goes into the Lycée corner. Damon Hill is well on his way on his 54th lap. This is Villeneuve, and Damon Hill is round the Grand Courbe, which is the first left-hander, into the Estoril bend at 120 miles an hour, and he has got at least the length of the finishing straight lead over Jacques Villeneuve. And Lacey is in 3rd position with Gerhard Berger now in 4th position. You can see how close the 2 Benettons are. The Benetton teammates of Jean Lacey, who is 3rd, and Gerhard Berger, who is 4th, are battling for that last podium place on lap 54. The veteran Austrian and the French Sicilian, Gerhard Berger in his 189th Grand Prix. Jean Lacey in his 111th Grand Prix. Jean Lacey has only won 1 Grand Prix, and Gerhard Berger has won 9 of them with McLaren and Ferrari. This is a really close fight.
Now there's one more significant pit stop to come. Well, that's Johnny Herbert's, but that's not that significant. He's too far behind. But the one that is from Olivier Parnis, and we expect to see him in the next lap or 2. He will be taking his 3rd pit stop. He is currently 2 seconds ahead of David Coulthard. He's about 20 seconds ahead of Martin Brundle, who is 10 seconds ahead of Barrichello. Now, if he loses about 22 seconds, that's going to put him behind Brundle, who will move up to 7th. That'll be Parnis back to 8th, but ahead of Rubens Barrichello.
And the gap between Hill and Villeneuve on lap 55 is for Damon a comfortable and reassuring 9.5 seconds. As the 2 Benettons go through, just as there are no team orders between the 2 Williams-Renault drivers, Hill and Villeneuve, So there are no team orders between the Benetton rivals and teammates John Lacey and Gerhard Berger. And each will be determined to get that 4 World Championship points for the 3rd step on the podium and to get one more than the chap who finishes behind them in 4th place. Lacey into the Adelaide hairpin. Berger right behind them, and Parnis is coming in now for that critical stop from 6th position. Olivier Parnis comes in. Coulthard therefore moves up into 6th position. Up goes the jack. On go the wheels. And 7.4 seconds. Let's see how long Olivier Parnis takes for his complete pit lane. He's taken just a tiny whisker under 25 seconds from the time he entered the pit lane to the time he exited it, having taken on more fuel, about 80 litres, 85 litres of fuel, and 4 new tyres and wheels. And we're on lap 56 now, 72-lap race. Renault engines are in the first 4 places, 2 of them in the Williams cars of Hill and Villeneuve, the other 2 in the Benettons of Lacey and Berger.
And this is a good, strong performance from Gerhard Berger. He made the later of the 2 second stops, therefore his tyres should be in slightly better condition. He stopped some 5 laps later, and this again, let's remind you, is a high tyre wear circuit. And Berger, like Lacey, benefiting from the work the Benetton team have done. They're sporting this green surround now. This is the head protection area in an effort to differentiate the Benetton cars from the similarly blue and white Tyrrells. But Jacques Villeneuve sadly has slipped back a second. He was 9.4 seconds behind Hill after that pit stop, and now 10.3. But interesting too that that stop of the Williams teams was very swift indeed. And of course one of the reasons for that is that as he stopped so late this time, they didn't need to put as much fuel in the car to get him to the end of the race. And again, it could have been that tactic that could have been race winning had Schumacher been ahead of Hill. That would have meant that once again the Williams team could have used that as a mechanism to get by as Berger goes there, following Lacey to the end of the race.
Out of the Nürburgring turns and into and out of the Imola turns. All the corners here are named after race circuits, with the exception of the Golf turn, and through to complete their 56th lap and into lap 57, watched by Benetton boss Flavio Briatore go his 2 drivers. Now, Briatore earlier on in the season gave both of them a strong talking to. He wasn't satisfied with their performance. Whether it was them or the car is of academic interest, but there is no doubt that both these drivers have had difficulty settling down with their new team. Both of them were with Ferrari last year. Both of them are with Benetton this year. They've had to get used to new methods, working out of England instead of Italy, working with a new engine, a Renault instead of a Ferrari, but still working with each other. You can see the result and how closely matched they are.
Well, the Martin Brundle-Olivier Panis duel seems to have been settled, because with great teamwork there from the Ligier team, and Panis being particularly quick into the pits and out of it, he got out ahead, not just ahead of Rubens Barrichello, but just ahead of Martin Brundle. We just caught a glimpse of that Jordan as he came out, although it was difficult, in fact impossible to identify until they came round. Now, Panis will be the one on fresher tyres. All the cars now have completed their pit stops. No more scheduled pit stops to go, so it's just a straight run to the flag with some 15 laps of the race to run. Now, I would expect to see Panis pull out from Martin Brundle. He was 3.2 seconds back, and indeed, as I say that, he's extended his lead in 7th place to 4.9. Panis still 18 seconds behind David Coulthard. So we've got Williams, Benetton, and McLaren. And I think if this race is significant for a change in fortunes of teams, it's for the clearest demonstration yet that we've seen McLaren team make inroads into the performance advantage that Jordan seemed to have had. And here, clearly, McLaren are ahead of them. And the also significant thing is that Martin Brundle is once again ahead there of Rubens Barrichello.
And Lacey trying desperately hard. I thought the Berger was going to close right up with him when Jean put his left rear tyre onto the grass. But just as we've got Williams, Benetton, McLaren. Here's a replay now. Watch Alesi's left rear wheel as he goes just over the curb, kicks up the dust. Berger was right under his rear wing, and Alesi retains the place. We're with Berger now. That's Alesi in front of us through the Imola turns, and that is at about 120 miles an hour into the Chateau d'Eau. And I was saying, whilst we've got Williams, Benetton, McLaren, we've got Renault, Mercedes in terms of engines. And if the French concern have the first 4 places at Magny-Cours in front of their own people, this will be an absolutely wonderful achievement for them.
Absolutely, and of course Renault have been in the news in the last few weeks announcing that they are going to withdraw from Formula One, not at the end of this season but at the end of 1997, and that is Frentzen off in the Sauber. Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who was running in 10th place. It looks very much like a driving mistake for me. The body language says it, the shake of the head. Let's have a look, and there's Frentzen. He's on the curb, round through the left-hander. Let's watch, something clearly goes wrong. He's getting the back out of shape. And, well, it looks to me like he might have had some suspension problem, actually, there. That right front being locked, to me, looks like maybe the left rear suspension is broken. And that would mean that his right front goes up into the air.
Well, one gets the impression that both Johnny Herbert and Heinz-Harald Frentzen have had it up to here with Sauber. Johnny Herbert is getting more and more despondent. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is getting more and more philosophic about the fact that he's not qualifying well. I think Frentzen started this race in 13th position, and Johnny Herbert was down in 17th place on the grid. They both seem to be pretty disenchanted, and one has to wonder what team they're going to be driving for next year, especially Frentzen, who is on the wanted list by quite a number of top teams.
Yes, indeed. This year hasn't been quite so good for him, but I still feel that in the right environment, fully motivated, Frentzen can be a real star of the future. Now, we're looking at a slow motion here. That's Alesi in front in the Benetton. Berger right behind. These two locked in combat. Again, Berger's best race to date. Both drivers benefiting from increased work from the Benetton team. But back to Renault. Renault are withdrawing from Formula One at the end of 1997. And I think they're entirely justified in doing that, because they've set out, they've achieved everything that they intended to in Formula One. They've won Constructors' Championships, World Championships. The Renault engine has simply been the best in Formula One. Renault have come in, they've used their own engineers, and they've proven that they can get the job done. And there comes a point when the law of diminishing returns takes place, the investment stays at a very high level, but of course people tend to expect the Renault to win, and it only becomes news or big news when it doesn't just do that. But whether they'll go off to IndyCar racing is something of conjecture. It's certainly possible. It seems that Bernard Dudo's team of highly skilled technicians are going to be applied to something. But of course, that also opens the question of what happens to the power supply for this team, Benetton, and for Williams. Well, the names that are being bandied around are Honda engines. Benetton are associated with Honda for the Grand Prix bike program, and that could mean that they'd be a logical partner for their Formula One team. But on the other hand, we also have to acknowledge the fact that Williams are the leading constructor of this decade, and as such they will surely have the choice of any engine supplier that they would like to have. Williams admittedly had a rather acrimonious separation from Honda at the end of their term 5-10 years ago, but nevertheless I still think that that's a very real possibility. At the moment we've got Renault, we've got Peugeot, Mercedes-Benz, all with absolutely superb engines, whilst we've got Ford working hard to try and close the gap and bring that Ford V10 somewhere near the performance of the leaders.
Damon Hill coming down to complete his 61st lap, and he has well and truly put down the threat of Jacques Villeneuve, because the gap now has been extended to nearly 14 seconds. There are 11 laps left, including the one that they are on. Hill leads Villeneuve by 14 seconds. There are 13 cars and drivers left in the race. The retirements in order of retirement are, first of all, the incredible situation when Michael Schumacher went out before the race had even started on the formation lap, followed by Montermini's 40, Fisichella's Minardi, Irvine's Ferrari, both of them out on by the fifth lap. Verstappen out in the Arrows, Deniz out in the Ligier, Badeur out in the second 40, Katayama out in the Tyrrell. Heinz-Harald Frentzen has just retired. You saw him walking in and in the pit lane from the Sauber team. And it's lap 62, Damon Hill coming up to lap Rossett again. Now, Rossett in the second of the two TWR Arrows, who has got David Coulthard ahead of him. Rossett has been lapped twice already. David Coulthard has not been lapped. He's in sixth position. Hill comes down to the Lycée. We're on the Williams-Renault now. That's his 62nd lap completed. He's on lap 63. Pulls out behind the young Brazilian, Ricardo Rossett, who's in his first season of Grand Prix racing, having driven extremely well in the European Formula 3000 category. And he has got the V8 Hart engine behind him, and hopefully Brian Hart is going to benefit from the fact that Renault are going out.
And just look at the difference in performance of those two engines on the straight there. And indeed, the Williams-Renault is about 10 miles an hour faster on the speed traps than the Arrows Hart. Hill driving absolutely superbly, as we've seen so often this year. He really is, again, as we said before, a different driver. The mistakes of old, certainly in the context we've seen this year, seem to be largely eradicated.
You know, when you go to work with Valvoline, so do millions of other Australians.
They all rely on the protection of Valvoline, which is why I changed my oil, but not my brand of oil, Valvoline. You know what I mean.
Sometimes you get desperate for a shot of great rock. The original Triple M is back, now playing nothing but great rock every hour. When you need great rock, only one station in Melbourne's got it. Yeah! Change back to Triple M, now playing nothing but great rock.
They're going to lead you to the 105 freeway.
Okay, and wait a minute, an escort to where? Where do we get an escort to?
Look out!
With the bond market and the share market, people can invest both here in Australia as well as in overseas markets. And particularly in overseas shares, there are immense opportunities. The Australian share market represents less than 2% of the world's markets. And therefore, 98% of opportunities, whether we like it or not, exist beyond our shores.
See your financial advisor or call BT.
Tomorrow at Kmart, all men's, ladies and children's clothing, sleepwear and footwear will fall by a massive 25%. So don't hang around. Get 25% off all clothing, sleepwear and footwear. Tomorrow only at Kmart.
Beware, this is Danger TV. A riveting special revealing the world's most dangerous.
The snake just attacks repeatedly.
There are risks you should not take. Anything can go wrong. Places you should not go.
It's shaking the ground we're standing on.
Thrills you should not seek.
It's something that we love doing.
Adrenaline-charged action where one tiny slip could be your last. Real stories, real people, real danger. World's Most Dangerous premieres 8:30 Tuesday on Channel 9.
Of the straight line speed charts every time, but they just seem to lose out on the corners. Maybe the suspension is a bit too stiff, maybe they work the tyres a little bit too hard, but whatever, I'm sure that Gary Anderson and his team are scratching their heads, working out what they can do to bring themselves up on terms with the Benettons and certainly catch up McLaren, because as we said, they have pulled out. Disappointing race, I think, a little bit for David Coulthard. He's 23 seconds behind Mika Häkkinen, and that's quite a long way. But on the other hand, as David recognises that it was Mika Häkkinen that had the testing with the revisions for the McLaren team, their front wing is swept further back than it was before, and that's helped their performance as well as the new rear suspension. Now, that characteristic that the car's been left with has not been good for David Coulthard. He's not had the confidence in it. He's had a few spins this weekend because the car is more nervous turning into the corners. And I think what we're seeing here today with Coulthard lagging behind Häkkinen is a manifestation of that David is not fully confident. Let's just hope he is in 2 weeks' time for the British Grand Prix.
Well, the lead of these two cars is Olivier Panis. He's in 7th place and he's been caught and will soon be lapped, I think, by Jacques Villeneuve, who is in 2nd position. And of course, Villeneuve is suffering meantime because Damon Hill will have increased the gap. Now, Damon said to me yesterday, I started from pole position for the last 3 years at Magny-Cours. I finished second in all those 3 years. I've never won in France. I'm starting from second on the grid this year to Michael Schumacher, who's in pole position and who won last year and the year before. So hopefully, he said, this is a good omen for me. Well, thus far, he was absolutely right. He's on lap 65 now. So there's just laps 66, 7, 8, 9, 71 and 2 for him to go. And he is 14 seconds. I suspect more than that now, because you see Villeneuve is still locked in behind Parnis, and I'm quite sure if he could get past the Ligier Mugen, he could go quicker than he is going now. But he's got this usual problem of buffeting from the car in front, which will affect the downforce on his front wing, which will affect the grip he's getting from his steering tyres at the front, and therefore slow down his lap speeds. Damon Hill, lap 65. Through the Imola turns go Parnis and Villeneuve. So Alesi is third, Berger is fourth, Häkkinen is fifth, Coulthard is sixth, Parnis is 7th, Brundle is 8th, Barrichello is 9th, and Salo is 10th.
Yes, indeed, there really couldn't be a worse person for Villeneuve to be coming up behind at the moment, although he's really lost any hope of closing on Damon Hill. He'll be stuck behind, I think, Parnis for some time, unless Olivier gives him some room, because Parnis made that late third stop. He's on fresher tyres than Villeneuve, fresher tyres than most cars out there, apart from Johnny Herbert. And also, the Honda Mugen engine is very powerful. The straight line speeds are good. This is where it'll show, and you can see that Villeneuve is not able to make a great deal of impression on that Ligier head as they go down the long straight. Well, having said that, he's gone straight by, so I've got to eat my words there. But that is cooperation. I'm going to justify that. That's cooperation there from Olivier Parnis, and great credit to him too. And that was Parnis lifting off early, allowing Villeneuve to carry on his way. And that's very professional from Parnis. He knows that he's not going to be able to hold him off for the following 7 laps of the race, and it's just the right thing to do. I think it's interesting looking at these cars. It's so easy for us to look on and just see them running around like clockwork. Everything absolutely hunky-dory, but in fact I can tell you that inside most of these cockpits, maybe not Damon Hill's because he's comfortably out in front, but inside virtually every other cockpit, the drivers are going to be struggling now with cars that are not gripping as well as they'd like. Evidence of it there is the right front locks of Parnis's Ligier, because the tyres are past their best. Now that is Olivier Parnis leaving the door wide open quite correctly. Villeneuve goes through, a little bit of a wave there from Villeneuve as he tucks in, and he really won't have lost too much time at all. In fact, it's 13.8 seconds as they cross the line on that, so nothing was indeed lost from Villeneuve. But inside the cars, each driver will be feeling that loss of grip from the tyres having deteriorated. If they put on new tyres now, they'd be lapping a second and a half faster, maybe even 2 seconds. They'll find they have to brake a little bit earlier. They find they have to brake a little bit more for every corner because they can't turn in quite as fast. The grip is not there. Then, having slowed up a little bit more into, say, this corner here, they can't quite get on the throttle as early to get back on the power to start accelerating. The grip all over is slightly reduced, and Berger is still all over Jean Alesi.
Indeed he is. Lap 67, Alesi still third, Berger still fourth, and Gerhard has got the problem, of course, that Villeneuve has got with Olivier Parnis. He's got a car that is equally quick and a driver who's equally talented in front of him, and unless Alesi makes a mistake, it's very unlikely that Gerhard will get past him, because Gerhard is not going to do anything silly. It's his teammate in front of him. They both want to finish. The only orders that they will have had are don't take each other off. So Berger is not going to be rushing up the inside and interlocking wheels with Alesi in order to get through. Now, Damon Hill is on his 68th lap. He's got a comfortable 13.9 seconds lead over his teammate, Jacques Villeneuve. And if they finish where they are now, I'm certainly not going to say that Damon Hill is going to win this race, because there are still laps to go and anything can happen until the winner sees the checkered flag. But if Hill finishes first and if Villeneuve finishes second, the positions in the World Championship will be the same as they are now, but Damon Hill will have increased his 21-point advantage over Villeneuve to 25 points. 10 points for a victory, 6 points for second place, And Williams, of course, who are already 50 points ahead of Ferrari, will have scored another 16 points, which will give them a total, dramatically increase their lead over the second place team in the Constructors' Championship to an incredible 66 points. I said in Canada that I could visualise Patrick Head, who is the technical chief of the Williams team and has produced such a superb car, with Adrian Newey and everybody else who works at the Williams factory, metaphorically polishing the Constructors' Championship trophy already. Well, if I said that in Canada, and they are going to score, it looks as though, another 16 points here, I should think he will have every reason to start thinking about doing it very seriously. Lap 69, 72-lap race. Hill leads, Villeneuve second. You're looking at the battle for third place between Alesi and number 4 there, Gerhard Berger. They are 11 seconds ahead of Mika Hakkinen, and David Coulthard is in the points as well. So it's still Williams, Benetton, McLaren.
It's amazing how closely matched this pairing, this Benetton driver pairing of Jean Alesi and Gerhard Berger have been for many years now. We've seen it this year in qualifying, in which Jean Alesi is generally qualifies 4th, Gerhard Berger right behind him in 5th. And we saw them tied together pretty much when they drove for Ferrari for the past few seasons as well. But as little Berger, I think, can do about Jean Alesi, he's remaining a second behind. It's near enough to capitalise on any mistake Alesi might make. I don't think he will, though. But on the other hand, it's far enough away that he's not being affected by the airflow too much from the car ahead. So the gap stabilises with Hill and Villeneuve as well. 13 seconds in that one. Whilst David Coulthard is gently, very gently sliding further back from his teammate Mika Hakkinen. And Rubens Barrichello has dropped a long way back from Martin Brundle. Now 18 seconds behind. Barrichello having a good race here last year. When he was with Jordan, he out-qualified his teammate Eddie Irvine, which was a rare thing to happen last year. But this year, he's